I'm going to tell you a little bit about this one. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Eau de Treasure. I'm Steven, and this is a little bit of a different video, a different setting, obviously, but I'm going to tell you about one of my top 5 most favorite fragrances in my life. I got the sun setting right here, right in front of me, and I'm basically at the beach. I'm on a fishing pier right now, and I left Tokyo a few weeks ago, and I moved to a new city in Japan called Fukuoka. And the city, it's a big city that's basically on the ocean. And today I took the train with no particular station in mind. I was just going to go basically to the ocean, get off at the station, and just walk and find a cool place by the water to shoot this little video for you. This little bottle right here, called Baryshnikov, is probably something that you've never heard of or never even seen before. But this is a long discontinued, very difficult to find, rare, vintage fragrance. Not only do I like this one because the scent is so beautiful, but there's also a story behind it that has some significance to me, so I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, the company that makes this is called Richard Barry Fragrances. Richard Barry Fragrances is now defunct. It's not around anymore. That's one of the reasons why you can't find this anymore. The company just isn't around to make it. And you can see how it has the address Orange, Connecticut. I think they were also based in New York City, but eventually they ended up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which has a significance to me that you'll find out in a second. So this is just a small bottle. This is just a 30 ml bottle. I told one of my friends here in Japan that I love this fragrance, and he went out and found this and got this and picked this one up for me. I don't know what he paid for it. This one is very rare to find here in Japan at all. In the 4 years that I've been collecting fragrances and shopping all over for them in Japan, I've only seen this fragrance twice. Once I got it. I picked it up myself. It was a 100 ml spray bottle in the box, like new, and I think it was a miracle. I think I got it for like $60. And then there was another one that the seller wouldn't budge on the price, and I think the seller was asking like $60 to $80 for it, and I was hesitating, and it disappeared, so I lost that one. And that's it. You can find it on eBay, and you can find it, it pops up now and again on Mercari in America, but people are asking a couple $100 for a full 100 ml bottle of this. This one, what does it smell like, if you're wondering? This one, people have compared this to Yves Saint Laurent Jazz. And I've smelled Jazz before. It is close to this. This is something like if you crossed Yves Saint Laurent Jazz with Yves Saint Laurent Rive Gauche, you would have something like Baryshnikov Pour Homme. And if you think that Jazz and Rive Gauche don't smell anything alike, I disagree. There are some similarities to that. And this is a 90s aromatic. This came out in the early to mid 90s, and this company was around for about 10 years before it closed. Gonna give myself a spray and enjoy this while I'm making the video. I can smell it and think about it and talk about it. Does it smell dated? A little bit. It does smell like something from the 90s. But it's still beautiful, and it would just take a fragrance snob to just tell you that they don't like the smell of this. I'm smelling this thing now in my hand, man. It's still beautiful. This bottle is still held up over time. Not only do I like the smell of this, but it's the story behind this that is pretty cool. When I graduated from university, that's when I started my so-called fragrance journey. So I grew up in North Jersey, near New York City, and then I went to university in Pennsylvania. But when I graduated in Pennsylvania, I moved down to Florida because that's where my family eventually ended up. My father lived there. My parents were divorced. My father already lived in Florida. My mother got herself an apartment down there, and then I moved in with my mom in her apartment. And across from our apartment, there was this really cool guy that lived there. It was a single guy that lived there with his son. This was a guy that was like in his mid-40s. I'll never forget this guy. This guy was so chill. The guy was just a really laid-back, cool dude, and I think my mom asked him to take me out in, we were living down by Fort Lauderdale. My mom asked him to take me out to some bars and just show me around, and I remember walking around Fort Lauderdale one night with this guy, and we went into like a packed restaurant, that had a bar, and he worked his way through the crowd and got to the front of the bar, and there was a really good-looking woman that was there, and he just kind of stood next to her and started talking to her, and I'm standing back like 10 feet away wondering what's going on. I'm like 22 years old at the time, and he walks back 5 minutes later, and he's like, I have a date with her next week, I'm gonna meet her. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know that that was possible. I'm like, what the hell did you just say? So that was the type of guy this was. This is a real ladies' man, a real cool dude. He had a couple jobs. He was a part-time tennis player, and he also worked for a cosmetics company, or he worked in a department store, I can't remember, but he had access to fragrances like this. And he gifted me, just out of the blue, he gave me a couple tester bottles. One of them was Perry Ellis America, which kind of looked like a bottle of wine, if you remember that bottle back in the 90s. And then he gave me a 100 ml bottle of this, Baryshnikov. At the time I didn't know it, but it was a aftershave splash bottle, which pretty much looks the same as this. I remember smelling it and thinking it kind of wasn't for me. It smelled like something that would be for an older guy. Those fragrances were among the first fragrances that I've ever had. I never went into a store and actually bought fragrances at that time. When I was 22, I just started collecting fragrances as they were gifted to me, and Baryshnikov was one of the first ones I've ever had. If you want to know the first fragrance that had an impact on my life, that is Drakkar Noir, and you have to watch my Drakkar Noir video where I tell you the story of how I got acquainted with that one. So to wrap up the story of Baryshnikov, that bottle that guy gave me, I still have it. I've moved so many times in my life, must be like 20 times in my life. And maybe it's the same with you. There's some things that survive every move. There's some things that when you're going through your stuff, you just don't throw it out. You hold on to it for sentimental reasons. And that 100 ml splash bottle of Baryshnikov, I still have it. It's full. Never really used it. Just every now and again, I just open it up and smell it. Like 8 years after I got that bottle, I went on eBay and looked it up, and then I saw that these things are going for $200, $250. My jaw dropped to the floor. I couldn't believe how these things went up. And that's just those few people that got this and loved it. They're willing to pay that money to have this again. I did find some of these in Japan, so they are still out there, and if I keep my eyes open, I'm going to come across more of these. And Fort Lauderdale, that's where this Richard Barry company ended up, and that's where I was living. So my friend, this guy from Fort Lauderdale, I lost touch with him, unfortunately. It's kind of, I looked him up on Facebook, but his name is really too common, too generic to find him. I'll give it another shot. I don't know if he's around anymore, but his son, maybe I can find his son. I remember his son's name. I remember his son's nickname. Maybe I can Google him and find him and say hi. So that's the story of this one. Baryshnikov Pour Homme, one of my top 5 favorite fragrances of all time. What are my other favorite fragrances? You guys watch the channel, you know. Jean Paul Gaultier Lemale, Armani Stronger With You, what else? Yves Saint Laurent Kouros, Gucci Envy. Want to check out the setting sun? There it is. That's it for me from beautiful Fukuoka, Japan. Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you liked this content, if you like this stuff. Really appreciate it, guys. And please subscribe down below if you want to see more content about vintage fragrances. Say hi in the comments if you have any questions or have any comments, or if you have ever seen this fragrance before or tried it. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what fragrance has some sentimental value for you. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video, and until next time, take care. I wonder how sunburned I'm going to be after this video.